Welcome to the Savvy Property Investors Podcast, a weekly show that delivers the best hard-hitting property industry news, business advice, and talks that will get you ascending in the real estate industry. Now, here's your host, the amazing award-winning property and business coach, best-selling author, and serial entrepreneur, Miss Sapphire Gray.
Welcome to another Savvy Property Investors Show. Our guest is none other than the property investment expert who I love to call the investment guru, Retika of Sevens Capital. She believes in an open and honest communication that builds great relationships in helping her clients to build their property portfolios with great success. She'll be sharing with us the financial and investment property trends for 2021 and beyond. I'm Sapphire Gray, your host, so let's get started. Welcome, Retika, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Excellent. So let's dive into the first question. We're excited to have you here, so thank you for being here. What is the state of the property market today?
So I think sort of despite the initial reactions and concerns from the first lockdown, which sort of brought the market to an immediate halt, I think we adapted and learned how to work in a new way. But other than that, sort of COVID has not really slowed the market. In fact, it's probably one of the only few things that has been able to continue, without much disruption throughout the pandemic.
Okay, so would you say that COVID has slowed the property market or increased the market share or maintained?
I think forecasts are strong with many PLCs such as Savills improving their predictions for the property price growth across the UK. So just to give you an example, Savills have now predicted 21.1% increase over the next 5 years, which is up on their previous predictions.
Yeah, okay, great, fantastic. How have tenants' needs, demands changed as well? And are tenants moving out of the city, certain cities, or are they simply redistributing around the cities for more space, value for money? What would you say?
So whilst the lockdown has brought, the social aspect of being in a town centre to sort of a standstill, this will never be a permanent thing. All you need to do is step outside. You can already see that the town centres are buzzing again, even with only outdoor dining and drinking permitted. So there'll always be a social culture that sort of surrounds the city centre, especially with Birmingham, the second largest city in the UK, sort of home to huge corporations such as HSBC, PwC, Deutsche Bank, and I don't know if you're aware, but soon to be the home to Goldman Sachs. There'll always be sort of a steady demand from working professionals that sort of love that lifestyle that comes with living in the city centre. This is only really cemented by the fact that in Birmingham, young professionals make up the largest proportion of the rental market, so that the sort of age range of 25 to 35. But the main thing that's changed, I'd say, in relation to demands and needs is the growing desire to have sort of on-site amenities, as it brings sort of an element of value for money with it. So sort of tenants are more inclined to sort of pay for spacious apartments with, on-site amenities such as gyms and also courtyard gardens and things like that. So, for instance, our Metaworks development is an example of this because we do have a courtyard garden where tenants can sort of relax, socialise and entertain outdoors as well.
Excellent. So they want the concierge kind of feel. So the inner city actually gives them that, doesn't it?
Totally, yeah. And like I said, it brings an air of value for money, and that's kind of where people are going now. I think that's the main change that's come about with COVID.
Just to deviate it slightly, you mentioned one of your developments. Tell us a little bit about that. You said it's got local concierge service as well?
Yeah, so many of our developments do have concierge services. The one in particular that I just mentioned was the Metaworks, which is our development in Slough. It's comprised of studios, 1 beds and 2 beds. But the main thing is its location. It's right by the Slough train station, so it's got the benefit of the Crossrail, and again with with the outdoor space that it offers, people are able to sort of use the outdoor space as well as, you know, being indoors. And I think, like I said, the last year has really kind of elevated that.
Excellent. And that's what I think the trends is that people are moving out of London. So having a space like in Slough that is still got good transport links is really good for people to actually look towards as well. And probably the property prices in that area as well is very favourable. Thank you for answering that. Excellent. So what role has investing in technology played in the real estate market or industry?
So over the last 12 months, tech has played a huge role. I mean, you know, in my opinion, it kept the market going with virtual viewings, video meetings. I truly believe that if we weren't as technically advanced as we are, then we would have seriously struggled to continue working as effectively as we've been able to do so throughout the pandemic and throughout the lockdowns. Because with the tech that we have in place, clients are able to view properties in detail, you know, with our virtual reality tools, which allow them to assess the quality and finish, the high standard finish of, you know, of our properties as if they were present.
Yeah. So would you say that you know, based on our last 13 months of lockdown and the coronavirus happening, would you say it's actually accelerated in the digital space?
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, we were already moving in this direction. It's something that was already happening, but I think COVID has sort of really turned additional marketing tools. So what would have been seen as luxuries previously are now sort of essential marketing tools. So, you know, living in sort of a fast-paced society brings a certain level of expectation of being able to access information, you know, at the end of your fingertips. The property, you know, the property industry has definitely, like I said, you know, kept going through tech. I don't think the property industry had sort of prior to COVID evolved as quickly as, let's say, the retail industry. But it would be easy to argue that, you know, the price points are different. So ultimately, you know, buying something online to wear in comparison to buying a property online are two different things. However, I think coronavirus has forced people to realise that they can purchase property using digital tools to assist the process.
Excellent. So the advancement of PropTech as made over the last year, what can be expected going forward as well?
So PropTech has had a huge impact on the lettings industry in particular, in my opinion, with many more sort of digital tools being used as part of the day-to-day runnings. Just to give you an example, sort of on the management side of things, it's helped sort of speed up the vetting process of potential tenants, as well as making the industry a bit more transparent. So, you know, people like to see what's going on a live system at any given time. So PropTech's been used for things such as checkouts, where it's allowed for specific things to be able to be documented and time-stamped, and also allows for that interaction from the tenant also. We've also seen a huge rise in mortgage comparison tools, which I think has helped, along with sort of your normal video viewings, you know, virtual reality tours. So it's, definitely kept the market running throughout the pandemic.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that. Which types of properties are buyers looking into, and what are some of the financial investment options that they have are looking into to finance them?
Okay, so I think there seems to be a huge desire for long-term investments at the moment. So our own research, Seven Capital's research suggests so, with 75% of our investors sort of choosing off plan, which is why our development in Bracknell called the Grand Exchange has been sort of our most popular development so far at the moment. This also allows for sort of, you know, looking at an off-plan option allows for the financial input to be spread over a longer period of time. So what this means is that if you're purchasing a completed property, obviously you have to put all of your funds in one go. Whereas when you're looking at an off-plan option, you can spread those payments over the build period. So you're kind of not having to think about it all in one go. And that luxury of time empowers you to be able to plan your investment portfolio, allowing sort of buyers to raise further funds to put towards the
That's very true.
investment.
Yeah.
Or in the other sense, you know, they've got more time on their hands to explore the lending options available to them.
Absolutely. So
There is, sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there is sort of an increase in demand for two-bed properties as well, just simply because people are now flexible working. So having that second bedroom at home allows for perhaps a home office.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you something similar along the same lines. When it comes to sort of working at home, now that we've gone through that experience, all of us has gone through the experience of actually having to work at home, people are looking for additional spaces in which they can work within. So you've just mentioned that you do 2 bedrooms. People are looking more for the 2-bedroom and upward space for them to allow them to do that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's just having that flexibility with the space. I think that's the main thing for buyers now, and especially with tenants as well, is that they want to be able to use the space flexibly. So it doesn't necessarily have to be used as a bedroom, but at least being able to have somewhere where they can set up a home office away from the lounge, you know, away from their day-to-day living. That's definitely, you know, becoming more desirable. But again, from an investment point of view, I think it depends on the investor's goals, because, you know, off-plan will suit those that are looking at sort of something where they can plan their finances over a period of time, but equally a completed development offers a steady income. So I definitely think, you know, which type of development they go for depends on that.
I noticed as well, even for myself, going through the current times we've gone through, that the outdoor space that I had was very welcomed. So how important is it for outdoor space, communal areas, even balconies going forward?
Yeah, so the pandemic's certainly sort of increased the emphasis, I think, that has been placed on that need for outdoor space. I think previously people weren't necessarily, it wasn't an essential need. It was more of a sort of luxury want as opposed to a need when looking for properties. But I think as long as the development amenities reflect a good balance between, you know, luxury, convenience and practicality, you know, so for argument's sake, the Grand Exchange has been designed with many of these things in mind. So they've got, you know, a garden room, for instance, where you kind of feel like you've got that outdoor space, but ultimately you've also got, like, you know, bringing it back to working from home, an exchange lab where you can go down within the building. It's a contemporary, stylish sort of co-working space, ideal for that kind of professional where they want to work from home but still stay connected within an office environment. So it offers that. So I think, you know, outdoor space and amenities and communal areas are definitely more important going forward.
So will these trends rise, or is there another option that should take over?
Yeah, these trends will probably rise as we change the way we live. You know, we've all noticed that the way that we live over the last 12 months, has changed drastically. But I think it just links back to what I said earlier. People are now expecting perhaps more value for money by the way of amenities and what's available within any development. In relation to sort of overseas investors, I think they're choosing the UK because our sort of currency and property market and values are trending positively.
Absolutely.
The UK sort of tends to offer a stable market for their money. So currency plays could be made against economies that are struggling.
I've seen a lot of trends and read a lot of news in regards to international investors coming over and investing in the UK, and it continues to rise. So the availability of stock definitely needs to be there, because you're doing new builds as well. The stock is obviously there, the demand is there as well. So that's brilliant. So judging by the current trends of people moving from cities from the city, will the lack of urbanization stall the property market, or has COVID-19 already reversed the urbanization trend?
I don't think tenants are sort of moving out of the cities as such. I think they're just redistributing around the cities. So, you know, just again, looking for that ever more, little bit more space, and again, you know, that value for money. But I think, you know, as long as they're sort of within the outskirts of the city, they're still very well connected and are able to easily access that city lifestyle. Because I think, you know, the city centre offers a lifestyle that can't be replicated in rural areas or suburban settings ultimately. So sort of young working professionals move to the city specifically for that lifestyle. And not forgetting, you know, apartments generally are growing in popularity and do still offer the best rental yields.
Excellent. So join us after the break with more insights from Retika.
This week's episode of the Savvy Property Investors Podcast was brought to you by our sponsor, the Savvy Women Group. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, head over to our website, www.savvywomen.co.uk, to gain access to our free resources and more insights about our guest speaker today. Remember, we make your business our business, so you can unlock your full potential and improve your quality of life.
So, Retika, thank you for sharing all those insights before our break. So tell me, is it still a good time to invest in the property market, either as a buyer or a seller?
Yeah, it's definitely a great time to invest, especially with the additional incentives that are currently in place, encouraging the market to rise. For example, the stamp duty holiday, offering a reduced rate of stamp duty, you know, that's still running until September, along with, you know, low interest rates, which are set to remain at the moment. Demand is still very much heavily outweighing the supply, which hopefully could, you know, result in consistent returns and increased market values, you know, in the coming years. But I think also markets are continuing to emerge. So for instance, you know, Bracknell is undergoing a huge regeneration project worth £770 million. So this is an area that we've sort of, I suppose, earmarked, where regeneration projects transforming towns and cities sort of offer the UK investor, the investor markets, a sort of diversity to their portfolio. So it's definitely a great time to invest. Also, Birmingham is only sort of halfway through a 20-year plan at the moment, including the installation of a tram service, the HS2 system, which is going to connect sort of Birmingham to the rest of the UK, and not forgetting the Commonwealth Games, which are coming to Birmingham. So adding, you know, to that culture.
Excellent. So what property trends are we looking at in 2021 and beyond?
I mean, it's expected that the stamp duty extension will continue to drive those property sales, as they have been throughout the pandemic so far, sort of even through the second and third lockdowns. They've continued to drive that. I think, in my opinion, London's slow recovery will mean that it will be, you know, still be quite financially inaccessible for buyers to be able to afford to live in London. So I think areas like the southeast will hugely benefit.
Okay.
Savills have said that they believe rental prices could increase in 2021, with early forecasts showing, you know, prior forecasts showing that they would have thought it would have been 2022. So they've again brought those predictions forward. But yeah, I think Birmingham is sort of sure to continue to lead the way with the Commonwealth Games and the HS2 as it sort of comes into effect.
Okay, brilliant. And what's the financial trends then for 2021 and beyond?
I think at a time when, you know, volatile investments are growing in popularity, such as crypto, it seems to be something that's on a lot of people's tongues at the moment. Property will become a sort of stable alternative, I think, for those that are thinking long term. So although, you know, investments such as crypto can seem extremely appealing because they boast huge returns, the level of risk involved is much greater, as it's an incredibly volatile market. Whereas property has, a proven track record.
Yeah.
You can't deny that.
Yeah.
You do sometimes need to ride through the storms at times, but eventually property only ever goes one way, and that's up.
I definitely agree with you on that. I'm a touchy-feely kind of person, so bricks and
Yeah.
mortars has been my first love of investment, because you can
Yeah.
see the asset, you can feel the asset, and you own the asset. So for me, when it comes to spaces like crypto and that, despite it's still a lucrative thing to get into, you actually can't see it. Trading, forex trading, or stock riding the stock market, you can't physically see it. So a lot of people like to physically see their assets, and I'm one of them. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think it's tried and tested, right?
Yeah, it definitely is.
You can't argue with something that's been tried and tested. And the property market has been tested through resilient times such as Brexit, COVID. The list
Yeah.
could go on.
Go on.
Yet it always bounces back and rises.
Yes.
That's sort of the ultimate end result generally in what we see. So I think we may see a new wave of investors, of those that are planning for the future, sort of investing in sort of safety nets, if you like, for their future.
So lastly, what is the future of property financing?
So I think, as you can see from sort of past markets and crises, the property financing market always bounces back. That's the main thing. In circumstances like the credit crunch and the crash of 2007, 2008, there were many sort of lessons learned, in my opinion. And obviously the mortgage market expands as confidence grows. So I think luckily in the UK we have a culture still of purchasing property, unlike some parts of Europe where it's generation sort of rent, and that's the culture. And I think our government is always supporting that as well. They're always supporting to help generation rent turn into generation buy, with things like the stamp duty.
Excellent. So what is your parting shot for us today?
I think the main thing is when you're looking at property investment, it's the age-old saying, location, location, location. That is it. If you've got the right property in the right location, then ultimately you are going to, succeed. It's looking for regeneration projects, areas where you are expected to see, growth through, towns that are currently sort of undergoing all this work, such as, like I said, Bracknell, Birmingham, these kind of areas. So it really just comes down to finding a property in the right location.
Excellent. So if our listeners want to contact you and learn more about the services that you offer, how can they do this? Would you like to share?
Yeah, sure. So you can contact me via email. My email address is retika.apple@7capital.com, or ultimately I am available by other media, so other means such as text, WhatsApp, phone calls on 07495 220 411.
And can you just tell us a bit about Sevens Capital and what's their website that they can find if they want to go into off-plan developments?
Yeah, so on our website you can find all of our developments, so you can explore the areas, the types of developments we have off-plan, completed, and obviously see all the amenities that are involved. But there's also really helpful downloads and guides which can just give you an insight into the markets and give you some understanding of what to look out for, really. That's at our website, which is 7capital.com.
Perfect. So come on, savvy investors, let's take flight. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and thank you to our guest as well, Retika, for joining us and giving us a plethora of information about Sevens Capital, how they're moving forward, and what she predicts is the trends that we are going to be following 2021 and beyond. So don't forget to subscribe, rate us, review, download, and share. This is Sapphire Gray, and out.
This week's episode of the Savvy Property Investors Podcast was brought to you by our sponsor, the Savvy Women Group. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, head over to our website, www.savvywomen.co.uk to gain access to our free resources and more insights about our guest speaker today. Remember, we make your business our business, so you can unlock your full potential and improve your quality of life.